Food can sometimes be our medicine for hormonal symptoms. They can definitely help support our cells and our body. There's a lot of things we can do with those hormonal symptoms. And the main thing is to stick to the plan, which is avoid the white sugar, avoid the white flour, avoid the package and the process and the bad oils. Those will backfire on us ladies. Hello friends, and welcome to the Honeycast. Today I'm going to be talking about how to lose weight in midlife with the Trim Healthy Mama plan. Trim Healthy Mama, and I'm going to call it Trim Healthy. They are shifting to a different name, even though it's still Trim Healthy Mama, but we're going to say Trim Healthy because it's not for just mamas. It really is for anyone that is wanting to feed their body well, eat balanced, and lose weight and actually keep the weight off. So a little bit about Trim Healthy. Trim Healthy embraces food freedom, but simply changes the way in which we fuel our bodies, such as separating our fuels, such as our fats and our carbs, while anchoring with protein and avoiding foods that spike blood sugar, which cause the body to store fat. So if that's a little confusing, that's okay. It was a little confusing to me too. I'm going to break it down here in just a little bit. But first I want to talk to the woman in midlife and beyond. If you are a woman in midlife and beyond and weight loss seems impossible and the increasing number on the scale is frustrating, Trim Healthy is a great place to start. At this stage of the game, it's all about regulating certain fat-burning hormones that can jumpstart your weight loss. And we also want to make sure that we are giving your body the food and the micronutrients and the macronutrients it needs to support your hormones, your brain, your blood sugar, and all the things. So let's dive in. Trim Healthy is a whole food balanced approach to eating that eliminates sugar and white flour and separates fats and healthy carbs. So we are not a no carb or a low carb way of eating. We love our carbs, but it's the way we eat our carbs. It's the right carb, the right amount, and in the right setting, which is what I'm going to be talking about. And that's the same to be true with our good, healthy fats. The Trim Healthy plan works because your body can only burn one source of fuel at a time, and your body always burns glucose first. So when we eat the standard American diet, we usually end up combining carbs and fats like this: cheeseburger and fries, steak with a loaded baked potato with rolls. When we combine the two, our fats and our carbs in larger amounts, our body burns through the carbs first, through the glucose. Then, if it can burn all of that up, if we haven't given it too much carbs, then it begins to burn through the fat. A lot of times we give our body too many carbs and too much fat together, and our body does not burn through the glucose. Guess what happens? That glucose gets stored as fat. Our body does not get to burn our own fat, which is really key. We want our body to burn through all the fuel that we give it, and then burn our own fat, and then get ready for the next fueling. With Trim Healthy, you separate the fuel so your body has a chance to do that. Because we are anchoring each meal with protein and allowing ample time to burn through the fuel, your body can keep your blood sugar stabilized, which is key for weight loss and overall health. The Trim Healthy style is low glycemic eating with a balanced approach to both fats and healthy carbs. There are no food groups excluded unless you're intolerant or you're allergic to a certain or particular food. We just avoid the white sugar, the white flour, some of the bad oils, things in packages, but most whole foods are included. There is a full food list inside the Trim Healthy Mama books, and guess what? All vegetables and all fruits are on plan. Good carbohydrate sources such as beans, quinoa, oatmeal, sweet potatoes, whole fruits, and more are also on plan. The Trim Healthy Mama style works with our hormones and not against them to lose the excess weight, deal with the menopause symptoms, and just overall feel good and have the energy that we need. But there are definitely some tweaks for the woman in midlife and beyond, which is what I'm going to share with you in a bit. But first, I want to break down some key concepts. Fuel separation. What is an energizing meal? What is a satisfying meal? And then how do we do that a little differently in our midlife season? Let's talk about fuel separation. You're basically giving your body one fuel at a time. You're going to burn through the fuel, then you're going to burn through your body's fat. Isn't that all what we want? So let's take a look at energizing meal and satisfying meal. I'm going to call them the E meal for energy. That's where our carbs are. And the S meal, which is our satisfying meal, which is where our fats are. So when we are fuel separating, there's sometimes a meal that we choose called a crossover. And that's when you have fats and carbs together. And that's definitely on plan. But the preferred fueling for weight loss is going to be that you alternate your energizing foods or meals with your satisfying foods or meals. So let's break down an energizing or an E meal. That's going to be your carbohydrate. And in this meal, we're going to give you a limit. The carbohydrate limit in this meal would be around 45 grams of carbs. Science shows that your body can usually can burn through that 45 grams without storing that as fat. But what we do like to do is add a little bit of fat to that meal. Now, what's a little bit of fat? How do we know? Well, we're going to say about 5 grams of fat or less. That's about a teaspoon of fat with the carbohydrate meal. So that way, you're going to burn through the carbs, you're going to burn through a little bit of the fat, and also the fat in your diet in this meal is actually going to slow down absorption of the carbs. It's going to help with assimilation, and it's going to help with satisfaction as well. But don't forget, one of the main players in this carbohydrate or this energizing meal, especially in midlife, yes, before midlife, but especially in midlife and after, are the non-starchy veggies. In both of these meals, the energizing E meal, satisfying S meal, you want to focus on those veggies. There are so many reasons, especially those of us that have a slower metabolism because of menopause and changing gut microbiome because of declining estrogen levels and needing more fiber in our diet. And that is those good non-starchy vegetables where we're talking about broccoli and cauliflower and leafy greens and things like that. So when we're separating our fuels, we will alternate. An E meal is going to be the 45 grams of carbs, 1 teaspoon or 5 grams of fat or less, and non-starchy veggies. That could be something like lean chicken tenders or chicken breast seasoned with your favorite spices and green beans seasoned with a little bit of butter or a little bit of coconut oil. And then you've got your sweet potato that you're going to put you can add a little bit of fat to that, but we're adding up to 1 teaspoon of fat. So you really want to decide where that fat is going to be. One of my favorite things to do with sweet potatoes is to add a teaspoon of MCT oil, a half a teaspoon of butter, and salt and pepper. And that MCT oil mixes with the butter. It makes you feel like you have more butter than you do, and it tastes yummy. And it's also going to, MCT oil is a great oil to turn on fat burning. So we keep the meat lean and we add some type of non-starchy vegetable on the side. A tip with making these energizing meals and keeping them low fat, that's really what you're going to think. This is the only time we're going low fat. We're not doing low fat throughout the day. Definitely not good for our bodies, but we're going to keep it light. So when I cook my E protein, I usually use chicken broth or a spray of coconut oil, but I don't use a lot of fat, and I really can't tell a difference, especially if I'm using a little bit of fat, and chicken broth usually tastes very scrumptious. Now, let's look at our satisfying S meals. This is going to be where we have a little bit more fat and we have less carbs. This is key here because remember, we're going to give our body a little bit of carbs, and we're going to say below 10 grams. And this is just what our body can handle if we have excess fat. So less than 10 grams of carbs, and we're going to shoot for those good natural fats. Dairy can be a part of your trim healthy journey if you can do dairy, but we want to keep that fat at around a couple of tablespoons or less. Now, that is not really a guideline that you'll see in the book, but I like to keep things a little bit lighter, especially in midlife. And I even do less fat than that in my S meals, but I'm going to talk about that in a second. So in your S meal, you could even say, okay, this is sort of like keto. Those S meals are like keto. I'm doing very low carb and I'm doing my good fats. You definitely don't want to lean on the S meals too often. We need our carbohydrates, ladies, especially those of us in midlife and beyond, and even in your 40s and 30s and 20s. Carbohydrates are a very important macronutrient. It becomes easier to grab those S meals or the more keto-like meals. You really have to strategize and think ahead of time when you're planning for those E meals. But those E meals are going to help you rev your metabolism. They're going to help you feel energized, give you energy. They're going to help you feel good. They help with serotonin levels. They're also going to support hormones. As we age, estrogen declines, and as does estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and the other hormones as well, and our energy levels decline. And we're looking for foods that are going to help with our energy levels, give us that glucose, and the vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients in those energizing or low glycemic carbs are beautiful for a woman in midlife and beyond and her hormones. So there you have it. You've got our S or satisfying meal, and you have your E energizing meal. And in different seasons, I suggest a different variety of meals. And in the midlife season, I suggest 1 to 2 E meals or snacks a day. I really like our menu to have 2/3 of our meals E meals, but everybody's going to be differing with that, and your body is going to feel different with that. But I want to make sure that you're getting those E meals in because they are going to support your body in such an amazing way. Like I said, it's easy to fall into that low carb trap, and when you do, you actually slow down your metabolism. That's not what we want to do. We want to rev our metabolism. We really want the nutrients that come from some of those slow burning carbs and fiber that comes from those carbohydrates. And that takes me to whether you're having E meals or S meals. In that S meal, let's talk about that. We're going to have any type of protein. It could be lean, it could be fatty, it could be chicken thighs, it could be steak, it could be fish, it could be turkey. Your fat source, that's going to be something like avocado, any of the oils, butter, dairy. I really prefer fermented dairy for women in midlife. Our bodies just do better with that fermented dairy. Coconut oil, MCT oil, nuts and seeds, all of those are beautiful fats to add to your meals, to your salads. And we also do not want to forget the non-starchy veggies, the cruciferous vegetables, the leafy greens, all of those, super important. I suggest having vegetables at least 2 of your meals throughout the day. If you can stomach them at breakfast, put them in there. They're just going to help you start your day very well and make sure you get your fiber in. So let's move on to the flexibility of the Trim Healthy plan for really every season. I'm going to hit the midlife and beyond season. That's where I am. That's where I have actually been on plan for since the beginning. And my journey with Trim Healthy has changed over the years. I've needed for it to change. What used to work for me was not working anymore. And I hit perimenopause and started to gain the weight, started to feel the low energy. and had a lot of hormonal symptoms. Now, food can sometimes be our medicine for hormonal symptoms. They can definitely help support our cells and our body. There's a lot of things we can do with those hormonal symptoms. And the main thing is to stick to the plan, which is avoid the white sugar, avoid the white flour, avoid the package and the process and the bad oils. Those will backfire on us ladies. What happens in midlife is our body does begin to slow down. Our metabolism slows down because we don't have estrogen, we don't have as much estrogen, we have less testosterone, our progesterone is low, and then that causes cortisol levels to rise. When cortisol levels rise, then insulin levels rise, blood sugar rises, and then that tells our body to go into fat storage mode. So because of declining estrogen, estrogen also tells our body where to store fat. So when we don't have estrogen anymore, it's telling our body to store fat in the belly, in the abdomen, because we have cortisol receptors there. So when we fuel our bodies properly, we're not stressing our bodies, but guess what? We can stress our body by not fueling it properly. And when we don't have enough of those energizing or the low carb meals, it stresses our body. If we have too much fat or too many S meals, it stresses our body. If we are not sleeping, it is stressing our body. If we are in a chronic state of stress because of lifestyle factors or ill health, or even our hormones being declined or out of balance, is a stressor for the body and just tells our body to slow down and to store fat. So we want to turn our fat burning on. And this is how we do it in midlife with Trim Healthy. We dial in our nutrition, which is making sure we get our E and our S meals. We are fueling 3 to 4 hours apart. We're not having the bites, licks, and taste in between meals. We need to let your body fuel, burn through the fuel, and burn your own fat. Isn't that beautiful? It's so easy. Once you learn how to start fueling for fat loss, it's easy to give your body the one fuel with a little bit of fat or the S meal with a little bit of carb and to enjoy your food. It is easy to build these meals once you practice. So you want to give yourself some practice, okay? The best place to start is really just with one meal. Just start with one meal a day. Start with breakfast. And let's have maybe an E breakfast. And let's the next day have an S breakfast. Or maybe you want to do several E breakfasts in a row so you can get used to that. For several S breakfasts in a row. So start with one meal and just build your meals based on whether you're basing it around a carb, protein, a little bit of fat, or protein, fat, and a little bit of carb. Some tips that I would like to share with you for the woman in midlife and how things have changed for me and my clients. I started coaching Trim Healthy about 6 or 7 years ago. And I was coaching women in their 40s, late 30s and 40s and some 50. And we were on plan and we were rocking and rolling. As a matter of fact, my first client lost 60 and I believe she actually lost more than that in over a year. Another client who was in her 40s, Matilda, in 6 months, she lost 45 pounds. And Jean, who is in closer to my age, maybe a little bit more, who could not get the scale to budge for years, has lost 12 pounds within a 6-month coaching program with me. That does not sound like a lot, but let me tell you, when you're not losing anything for years and years and years, and you finally start losing, oh, it's a big deal. And then even Alice, who is a little bit older, she's in her 60s, and same thing. She wasn't able to learn the plan as a lifestyle. She kept starting and stopping. And so we worked together for 6+ months, and now it's her lifestyle. And she uses the tools, and she is down 12 pounds as well. And she couldn't get the scale to budge for many, many years. So there are a lot of success stories with Trim Healthy. And in the midlife and beyond season, I'm going to tell you this. It's going to be a little bit slower. If you thought it was slow before, and I don't want to discourage you, but if you will just be committed to yourself and not the scale, committed to the plan as a lifestyle, and you just stay on it, you just stay in it, even when you're not seeing results, you will eventually see results. And some of the things I want you to practice would be in your midlife season would be you're committed to yourself and not the scale. If you go off plan, get right back on in 3 hours. Get right back on. A great place to start when you get back on is just do what you know to do. Have an S meal or have an energizing meal, but just get back on that fuel separation. Don't let those thoughts tell you, well, I ate off plan. I might as well eat the pizza or eat all the things. No, get back on the Trim Healthy train in 3 hours. Begin training yourself to do that, and you will show up more consistently. Now, some practical things. Really want you to have at least 2 e-meals or snacks a day. The other ones can be your S meal. We want to lighten things up. So when we're looking at our S meals, sometimes those can get really keto heavy, like bacon and cheese and sour cream and cream cheese. We really want to avoid those heavier fats, and I want you to focus on the natural fats like coconut oil, avocado, nuts and seeds, nut butter, even butter, MCT oil. If I didn't say that, I might have already said that. But we want to keep the fat a little bit lighter. We don't want globs and globs of fat. When I make myself a taco bowl, and maybe I'm making it in S fashion, and this is how I would do that. I would take ground beef, and I would take cauli rice, and all the fixins, lettuce, salsa, a little bit of Greek yogurt, avocado, throw any other veggies in there that you can hide. And I'm just adding a little bit of fat. I'm just adding 1/4 of an avocado, maybe a dollop of Greek yogurt, maybe a sprinkle of, I love the cotija. I think it's Cotija. That's how you say that. That's my favorite. Just a little sprinkle of that. See how light that meal is? That is a great what's called light S. And so instead of globs of fat that our bodies have a hard time burning through, 50 and above, let's just lighten things up. The other thing, I've already said it, but veggies, non-starchy veggies. And here's what I do. I make a veggie hack each week. This week, I made cauliflower, purple cabbage, a few carrots. Carrots over a 1/2 cup can be a little bit more of a carb meal. But what I do is just put a little bit in there and some kale. I made that up in chicken broth and in my Instant Pot, literally 2 minutes. I let it steam for 2 minutes. I let it sit for 2 minutes, and it is done. Mrs. Dash, salt, pepper. If you like hot sauce, you can put that on there. That goes in my fridge. Those are the veggies that my husband and I eat on throughout the week. And sometimes I do 2 different ones. Literally, you guys, it takes me 15 minutes. I don't even have to chop them really small. I could make them in a big, coarse, chopped mess of vegetables. Vegetables are important because they're going to feed your microbiome fiber. They're going to help with excess estrogen detoxification and just overall detoxification. They're also going to be providing the vitamins, the minerals, the phytonutrients that your body needs, such as B vitamins and magnesium and many more that I don't want to give you a big list of, but those we all know fruits and vegetables are the way to go. The other main thing is anchor with protein. Ladies, do not start your day out with a 10-gram protein breakfast and then load your meals at the end of the day. Don't wait and start breakfast at 10 a.m. The best thing you can do is start breakfast within an hour and a half of waking, and some of you may need to do that before if you have blood sugar issues, and you have a protein-based either S meal or E meal. I like that protein. At least 30 grams of protein at that breakfast. We want to start building. We want to build. We do not want to keep the fast going. We don't, in that fasting state, we're breaking down. We need to start our day. It starts our blood sugar, or it stabilizes our blood sugar. It's going to feed your brain and feed your body. You don't have the estrogen like you used to that was actually feeding your brain. And so now we need to give it good food, and having a 30-gram breakfast, protein breakfast. Then throughout the day at lunch, 20 to 30 grams at lunch. If you have a longer day and you need a snack in the afternoon, then protein at our snack and protein at our dinner. We get the protein throughout the day. And you guys, I have seen such a change in the women who I'm coaching when they start having adequate protein. They feel more energetic. They have less cravings. They are losing weight. They're feeling good. They're maintaining muscle, which is the number one reason why we want, I will say top reason why we want our protein. We need to contend for muscle. We need muscle. It's going to help us burn fat. And as we age, we begin losing muscle I'm not going to say rapidly, that's not the word, but it's pretty significantly. And so we want to do things to stop the muscle loss. So key takeaways for the midlife weight loss with Trim Healthy Mama. Here we go. Number 1, understanding fuel separation. Here's what it is. Separate the fuel so your body can burn through current fuel and then burn through your own fat, right? Let's get that fat burning going on. Second, creating satisfying and energizing meals. Practice creating your S meals. Practice creating your E meals. I talked about ways that you can get your veggies in. Some easier ways for you to plan and craft your E meals are to prepare your carbs ahead of time. I love this. Not only is it ready for me when I want it, but it becomes a resistant starch. When you heat up sweet potatoes, black beans, lentils, and even regular potatoes, and you cool them, and then you reheat them or eat them cool, they become a resistant starch, which is what we want. And I make sweet potatoes or quinoa or brown rice ahead of time actually for my whole week. I keep them in my fridge. I pull them out as needed. So easy. And then always have those veggies in the fridge. I can pull those out. I can create a bowl if I wanted to. One of my favorite meals is chicken that I usually have prepared ahead of time, or I can use lean rotisserie chicken, brown rice, my non-starchy veggies, and I love to top it with a little bit of coconut aminos, nutritional yeast, and some salt and pepper. I love that bowl. And you can mix and match. That's what's so great. If you don't want brown rice that day, you can do a sweet potato. If you want to switch out for ground chicken or turkey or something like that, or even fish, lean fish, you can do all of that. It is so easy to get those e-meals in. It's important that you plan your meals ahead of time, even if it's the day of. Maybe you sit down and you're like, I'm going to have an E, an S, an E snack, and an S dinner today. Or maybe you plan out 3 days and you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to have E breakfast every day. I'm going to have an S lunch. I'm going to have an E snack, and I'm going to have one S, one E, and another S dinner. See how I'm just taking the S and E and I am alternating those. There's no special way to do it. You want to keep your metabolism guessing, so you don't really want to fall into a rut and do it exactly the same every day. But even if you did exactly the same thing for the whole week, that would be amazing. Just give it a shot. Just give it a go. And the third takeaway would be how to do this for your midlife season. And I went over several things that you can do for your midlife season that will help keep things a little bit lighter so that your body can burn through all the fuels. It's going to give your metabolism a great boost and your hormones great support. And the last key takeaway would be to give yourself time. Give yourself time to learn this. Give yourself time to fail, to practice. Give yourself time to create a habit or a lifestyle. If you just start with one meal, that's a great way to do it. If you're already on plan and you hear some things and you're like, ooh, I need to shift that, just take one key takeaway and start working on that first. One key thing consistently is going to help you get unstuck or go to the next level. Thank you guys for joining me. I hope this overview of the Trim Healthy Mama plan for the woman in midlife was helpful to you, and I will see you on the next podcast.